Okay, we're going to get started, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for those on the East Coast. You're doing this during your lunch break. But of course, with COVID, you're all stuck at home anyway. So I really, really do appreciate it. We're going to get started because we try and keep this to about 30 minutes or so. So it's pretty quick. We try and hit all the main points. So to get started, a few housekeeping rules. This webinar is being recorded, so we have put you on mute. Sorry about that, but we need to do in order to reduce the background noise. Questions throughout the webinar are greatly desired. We appreciate that. However, please use the chat box and send the questions to us via the chat box. Do not use the Q&A box. We don't monitor that. We monitor the chat box. But please be aware that the chat box is open to everybody, so your question will be seen by all attendees. So all I can say is, be careful what you write and be kind. Thank you, appreciate it. So let's start. The Intelligent Enterprise. So this is a kind of a unique seminar or webinar. We're going to tell you about all the virtues and powers of Vtenext, a global leading CRM system, but we're going to do it in a different approach, right? We're going to do it more from a case study approach. Basically, why did we, Exergy Energy, choose Vtenext? How do we use it? Because we think this will probably be the most instructive and helpful for companies out there who are considering a CRM system, who may already have a CRM system. And mostly what I want to focus on is scalability of your company. So I start off by saying where you arrive depends upon where you start. And that is really the concept is think ahead, plan before you take the first step, and take that first step based upon solving the integrated or infrastructure needs of the corporation or the company as a whole. Don't look at it and just say, oh, we need a CRM system. Let's go look at all the CRM systems out there. Step back and say, what does our company need to achieve? What are the actions and features and things that we need to supply to our customers? And think about it from the standpoint of how do we automate that? How do we scale it? And I sort of make a statement here. If you start with CRM before doing that thinking, you're going to get lots of data. CRMs are fantastic for lots of data, but you're also going to end up with lots of meetings. And the reason is because while you have great information in the CRM system, you still need to coordinate with all the other activities of your organization. Customer billing, vendor management, service contract management, all of those things. So from a contrast perspective, if you start with business process management or business process automation, you can literally unleash your employees from all those meetings to try and coordinate all these activities and basically allow them to fly. Open architecture automation, which is Vtenext is built on, basically makes your organization boundless. Now, we're a software company, and they always say, hey, software companies scale. It's very easy to scale, but it's a little bit myopic. So when they think of a software company, they're saying, well, you know what? It doesn't cost anything to duplicate the software, whether it's software as a service or I'm selling you software. The marginal cost of the product is basically zero. And they say, and therefore that gives you that great scale. Problem is that unless you've built your organizational infrastructure in an automated way, the rest of the organization doesn't scale the same way. So sure, you can send out another copy or another instance of your software, but you're still going to have to still manage customer billing and all those things in disparate systems that you might have. So if you really want to scale, and we want to talk a little bit about why Exergy is like so focused on scale, you really, really want to start upfront planning and business process automation. So to contextually put this, in context here, right? What do we do? What does Exergy do? So we're basically a concierge utility. We make organizations 100% green so that all the electrons they consume come from renewable sources. We make them 100% resilient. If the grid goes down, they keep running. And we typically save them 10 to 15% on their electricity spend. To do this, we have got to manage a large number of interactions and transactions literally on a minute-by-minute basis. So as the puzzle chart here shows, we're doing demand response, which means we're selling energy back to the grid. We're also buying renewable energy and delivering it around the grid. We have to manage a backup generator, not only turning it on and off, but we have to monitor it, schedule service and maintenance, make sure it's not failing. We need to watch the load of the customer to do peak shaving in order to save them money. We may have batteries behind the meter. We might have on-site solar behind. We have to essentially manage all of this and make it easy for the customer with simple billing and things like that. So in a sense, we are constantly interacting with multiple stakeholders, multiple players. We're managing wind farm generation and solar generation. We're selling that to the grid. We're buying it back from the grid. We're having to negotiate with the grid to transfer the energy. We have to balance with the grid. We've got to monitor the customer's load. We have generators behind the meter at the customer. So if the prices get on the grid get too high, we can then demand respond, all these things. We have this level of complexity. So this is essentially a diagram that depicts all of the use cases and stakeholders in our solution. We have to manage all of them in a coordinated manner. So we've got the customer. We need to watch the customer's load, but we also we've contracts with the customer. So we have to manage those contracts. We have to manage the billing of the customer. Since we are the ones that are supplying their electricity, we have to bill them. But in order to get the electricity to them, we have to manage the grid. So we have to literally communicate with the grid, schedule the energy to be delivered across there. And if we're doing things like demand response, we have to go and notify the grid that we're going to be taking load off. Retail clear basically says we have to clear through the market transactions of the grid, not only just scheduling and moving energy, but we have to literally buy and sell energy on a real-time basis. We have the local utility we have to integrate with because obviously we are energy moving in multiple directions. We have interconnections. AI prediction is we need to know where and when grid prices are going to go very, very high, when the grid is going to be under stress, because when the grid is under stress, that's the time that the grid determines how much it's going to charge you for your demand charges. We've got equipment to manage. Not only do we have to turn on generators and turn off generators, we have to manage them. We have to know their service contracts and maintenance. And again, service. Resellers. We're basically a software company. We have people that use our platform and essentially resell it to others. So we have revenue sharing with them. We have to be billing the customer, getting our profits, sharing them with the resellers. EPC, engineering, production, and construction. That is the people that actually install and commission the generators for us behind the meter. So we have projects that we need to manage. We need to coordinate the customer's load and energy purchases with the project so that there's seamless coverage and things like that. And then again, renewables. We have wind, solar, hydro that we've got to dispatch, manage, and all those. We need a central coordinating and control system to manage all of these, because all of these are happening in a sense asynchronously. Each customer is unique. So if you got 1,000 customers, and I think I've got 10 stakeholders here, I literally have like 10,000, because even though I'm talking to the grid, I need to talk to the grid for a specific customer at a specific location and a specific interconnection. So when Exergy looked at our business model and said, okay, we figured all this thing out, we started and strategy. We focused on automation. We knew that while we had great IP and we had great software technology on how you manage backup generators, now you talk to the grid, that's only a small portion of actually managing the business, right? So again, we stood back and said, what do we need to do as an enterprise to be able to scale? And it was evident and very obvious to us that we needed to start with automation. How do you automate all of these things? So we knew that a CRM alone would not do what we needed. And what we wanted to avoid, obviously, was implementing a CRM system and then trying to force fit other pieces and other automation together. So we knew a CRM wouldn't be enough. We knew we had to focus on automation. So what did it require? So first thing is, it required extensibility of the object model. Now, think of this from a CRM perspective. I've got a customer, I've got an account as sort of the main hierarchy of the object model. But CRM systems don't understand our business. They need to be able to be extended to things like a generator, right? I've got a generator there. I've got contracts as they relate to renewable generation that I'm delivering to that specific customer. It has maintenance contracts with the generator supplier for that particular instant. So we needed to be able to extend the object model of a CRM system to take account of all the different aspects of the relationship of customer management and things like that. So we knew we had to build it on top of business process management. We knew we had to build it on top of automation. But here, we also understand something is that the automation that we do should be able to be done by non-programmers, because this is really about market dynamics. This isn't about the technical, interaction, HTTP and API and all that. That's actually pretty simple stuff. It has to do with understanding the dynamics of the market. And those things change. My interfaces to generators and Modbus and all that kind of stuff, that doesn't change, but market dynamics change. So we need to have our organization to be extremely agile and adaptive so that if things change in the marketplace or in regulations or something, the people that really understand what that means, which are non-programmers, they're the business analysts, they need to be able to do this automation. And they do that through business process management notation. As an organization, we've always been focused on being able to express what we need to be done in business process management notation. So we needed to build the infrastructure for a business more than a technical control solution. We have lots of customers saying like, well, what's really your IP? Well, our IP is how we manage generators and the grid and everything else. But that's not the key to the success. The key to the success is the scalability by automating every interaction and transaction. We needed simple, maintainable code. So rather than trying to build one large, complex, mythologic thing, what we did was we simplified all of those interactions with the grid, with the generator, as simple web services, which are then completely exposed to the business process automation. It allows our business analysts to automate everything. And we needed to dispatch updates seamlessly, which essentially is a follow-on from that simple, easy, maintainable code. Let me give you a little cultural history of the company. So we have extensive CRM experience. Prior to Exergy, we've done 7 implementations of CRM successfully, and a few of those, at least, of course, were the top names that you all know. Given that, I will say that Vtenext is by far the easiest, most intuitive, and most cost-effective of all the other CRM systems we've done. We also had extensive ERP experience. We've implemented SAP, we've implemented Markham, JD Power. We knew ERP very well. Now, the important thing conceptually here is we're interacting with the grid and energy markets and pricing dynamics all the time. we have a lot of experience in modeling and simulation. We needed to make sure that we knew how each of the pieces of our solution work and how they respond dynamically to changes in the marketplace. So we have extensive experience in system dynamics, which I'll talk to a little bit later, discrete event simulation, machine learning, and AI that we use again for forecasting like grid prices and things. Scalability was and continues to be our primary focus. And the reason is, if you go back and you look at the complexity of what we're doing and the number of interacting partners, just focusing on that small IP technological solution we came up with would not allow the company to grow and expand and scale rapidly, because there would just be too many other bits and pieces that we had to manage. People are creative machines when they're unleashed, but if you got them doing, routine work and trying to basically fill in forms and pass information back, that's a bad gig, right? Computers, programs, and things are execution machines. If it's routine, if it needs to be responded to almost immediately, and remember, we're talking about minute-by-minute transactions here, you gotta get the automation in there. We also always view our company as a single integrated system. We do not have multiple software programs. We don't have a program for maintenance. We don't have a program for CRM. We don't have a program for contract maintenance and things. One single integrated system. That includes project management. And as we are installing a backup generator or something, that's a project. The project is built into Vtenext. So our team can manage everything from one single source. We also have a preference culturally for open source. And we just find that open source solutions tend to evolve faster than non-open source and provide more features and functionalities at a faster rate. And we also like the freemium model. So we literally started off with the free version of Vtenext, the community version. And we did most of our development, solidified it before we moved on to sort of the paid version. I just want to step back a little bit. So when we said we model all enterprise activities, we do. So and this is really more about what are the abstractions that we need. So system dynamics, this is how we actually simulate and optimize. How does a customer's load and generator and renewables, how do they interplay with the grid dynamics as prices move and natural gas prices change and things like that? We use system dynamics to ensure that we understood all of the logic, everything that needed to get done. The abstraction in system dynamics, which essentially numerically solves the differential equations, is the abstraction is based on stock and flow. A lot of what we do is responding to events as well. So we also did a lot of analysis and simulation on discrete event simulation. So something happens, you take these actions, that causes a queuing, how do you manage those things? The abstraction there is really based on events and actions. And what we did was, of course, all the simulations were done stochastically. But from an enterprise perspective, again, stepping back and saying, okay, we want to have one unified system that's going to do everything. What abstraction did we need? And the abstraction we needed was basically three things. We needed things, things and an unlimited number of things. And what I mean by that is a customer is associated with a generator. That generator is a thing that has to be, it has its properties, it has its methods, it has its parameters, but it also has its interface requirements. So when we talk to it, we need a place to make sure that we codify and store all of the interface requirements. That thing has to also be maintained. So we have, so things, there's lots of them, service contracts, generators, solar panels, all of that. Relationships, we needed an unlimited number of relationships. One to many, one to one, many to many, for the simple reason is we have so many interacting parts. So I'm buying from the grid, I'm selling from the grid, I'm turning a generator on. All of these things have relationships. And then events also needed to be basically unlimited. So something happens on the grid. We need to be able to monitor that and respond immediately. Now, respond immediately, who's going to do that response? We're doing this thing on a minute-by-minute basis, so that has to be automated. But it's a grid thing. It's not a technical thing. It's a grid thing. It could be a pricing thing. It could be a load thing. It could be a congestion thing. Going back to the unlimited number of things. The people that need to handle that or who understand it are the business process analysts. Therefore, managing the events and the actions to an event has to be done in the business process management side by business analysts, not by programmers. So what did that mean? We needed an extendable object model. We needed something that we could expand, add new fields, new properties, new methods, all of that, extendable object model. Most importantly, we needed everything natively exposed to the business process automation engine. So if I add an object or I extend an object in the Vtenext model, when I go to the business process engine, that object, all its fields, all its methods, all its properties are natively exposed to me in the business process management engine, which is unbelievable because it just makes a simple sort of drag and drop, choose this, choose that. Awesome. And again, we wanted a supported open architecture. So how do we find Vtenext? And I'm singing its praises, but how do we find it? So first of all, I do want to step back and say, we're cheap, okay? So we always look for open source stuff to start. We have prejudice for that. And we like the freemium model. We like to be able to try something out first. So we knew that we required business process automation to build on a foundation, right? We didn't want to start with point solutions and try and integrate those because it's just really tough to scale it and keep it moving. So we wanted business process automation as a foundation. So what did we do? We searched for open source business process automation that supported business process management notation because we were already quite facile on BPMN. And we found a lot of stuff, obviously. We found a lot of stuff on SourceForge. We found Vtenext on SourceForge. And at the time, we weren't looking for CRM. But as we looked at it and we said, well, wait a second, a CRM built on top of a business process automation engine, that is brilliant. If any of you have got a CRM and is trying to automate it with workflow and things like that, you're going to run into walls pretty quickly as soon as you start extending it beyond, I'll call it the boundaries of the object model of the CRM. So building on top of BPM, it was absolutely brilliant. And I say that with all due honesty about Vtenext. We tried a bunch of alternatives first. We implemented a couple, as I said, painfully. We found just wasn't scalable. And it required too much programming. We're a programming light company. That's when we standardized on Vtenext. So why? Why Vtenext? Vtenext is simple. It met all of our needs. It is a full-featured CRM. It is as good as anybody else's CRM, and I'm talking about the best, the best-in-class CRM. Vtenext is one of those. But when I say full-featured, it's that open object model, that extensibility and built on top of BPM that allows us to run an entire company on it. So it's got extensible objects. You can add new fields, properties, methods to an object. You can add new objects. So we add things like generators and solar panels and all kinds of stuff. Again, all of that is completely exposed to the BPM services. We can add new relationships. We add web services. Obviously, we're talking to the grid through REST APIs and things like that. The web services themselves are exposed to the BPM engine. I don't have to glue things together. I just register it into the Vtenext object model, and it's there for me as soon as I need it. Again, it's open source, and of course, they've got a great API. Most important, and I want to reiterate this, every addition, every modification, extension is exposed and supported in the BPM engine. There is virtually nothing that you can't automate, but the absolute genius and beauty is it's a low-code, no-code environment that business analysts can basically automate anything that you need to do. Now, I said it's a full-featured CRM and business management suite. Vtenext has everything the competition has, but it has much more, and it has much more because at its heart is business process automation. And that's really the key that everybody should be focused on. How do I automate my business in order to scale it as productively, as fast as possible? Software scales, organizations do not. If you've got to throw people at something, you've got a real problem. So when I say it's full featured, it does everything. And when I say more, so if you think about a standard CRM system, you know, it's going to have accounts, it's going to have leads, it's going to have campaigns, you know, email management, newsletter management, and the standard stuff, contacts, calendars, email integration, and all that. But what it also provides, in addition to BPM, is I've got a project management system built into it. So when I sign up a customer, immediately a project is created for that customer. People are notified through business process automation. So our EPCs are notified this customer signed up, and we can track everything that's going on with that customer. But more importantly, the customer can track everything that's going on because the customer has a portal. And in that portal, everything is displayed that we want to display to the customer. So the customer is never confused about what's going on or something. They have access to everything that's literally of meaning to them. But again, from our perspective is the project for that customer is in the CRM system, is in our single system. It's service contracts, the agreement for the purchase of electricity, all of it is managed at one location. So we're not jumping around. Our customer support people and our project managers aren't jumping to whatever it is, you know, Microsoft Project or LibreOffice or Smartsheet or something like that. They don't need to. We avoid wasting all of this energy, resources, and time. So you'll notice in there, we've got things like service contracts as native to Vtenext, time cards, you know, trouble tickets, services, all of that. And what's really cool about it is things that we add come up directly. So you'll notice, you know, in the middle at the bottom, SCADA. So that's, you know, system control and data acquisition. That's the thing that's literally monitoring the load of the customer and everything else. When the customer goes into his portal, you can see all of the information that's going on behind the scenes. Now, again, it does what everybody else does in the CRM system. So, you know, if you're going to say, is Vtenext a better CRM than somebody else? If all you wanted is CRM, I would say they are as good. I think they are, you know, more cost effective, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's going beyond CRM. That's the key with Vtenext. It's beyond CRM. So they have dashboards, they've got, you know, alerts, they have all that cool stuff. But what is really important is the business process management engine that the entire thing sits above. So here is, and again, standard BPMN notation. So here is a business process layout, essentially, right? It's the control center. But for most business process automation from other CRM stuff, you are constrained to what is in the CRM. In the case of Vtenext, you're not constrained at all. So I put some, you know, arrows here, right? So some of it The web service is, I register the web service to Vtenext, and then when I get to BPM, that web service is available for me, and it links it directly to whatever account I'm working on. So I can easily just pass fields from the account to the web service, take the action, come back, post those results back into that account, and move on. And all of that is done not by a programmer, but by a business analyst who just essentially is just mapping fields. In some cases, we've extended the properties. I need to know certain things about what's going on at the customer that a standard CRM system wouldn't know, wouldn't care about. What's the every 15-minute load? What's the peak load in the last 24 hours? All those things. Those extended properties are exposed directly by Vtenext into the BPM. And the same thing, new objects. I need to add something. So I add a generator as a completely new object because it has to be managed not only in the context of the grid and the context of the account, it needs to be managed from the context of service, maintenance, failures, work order scheduling. I need to schedule the maintenance guys to come in and change the oil and things like that. This is the key value differentiator between Vtenext and everybody else out there. It's built with a heart of business process automation that allows you not only run your entire company, but allows you to scale your company very, very rapidly. And to go even further, it's natively integrated with AI. Now, we mentioned that we used AI because we need to figure out where this customer's load is going, where the grid is going, and everything else. But if you think about business process automation essentially is a great data generator or a record of everything that's going on in the organization, in its relationships, in its transactions. So it makes a total sense to have an AI built in that can discover and make predictions. So it can discover processes, like what is the buying process? And then predict, is this customer going to do certain things, either on a buying, like it's a lead, and it learns from other leads that complete and go to sale to give you insight and to automate other tasks. Given what it sees, we should be doing other things. Again, completely exposed to the business process engine. So AI is, it's the next scaling for you because it discovers things that maybe we didn't anticipate, and it helps us to be more efficient and more effective at all times. And unfortunately, I have to, so what did our solution looks like? This is basically how we run our business. But the key thing I want you to focus on here is the control center. Everything is managed through Vtenext. It manages the accounting, it manages the customer portal, all native to Vtenext. Vtenext's database, obviously, but it also manages and coordinates all the activities that we are doing. These all happen to be web services at the bottom in how we talk to the grid. But again, we need to talk to the grid for each account independently and asynchronously. So if we have 10,000 customers, I literally have 10,000 concurrent but asynchronous transactions going on with the load and the grid and everything else, all running in parallel. How do you manage that? Because you have to, essentially, you have to react to any event for any account or any grid node. Well, that's handled by Vtenext through the BPM, because I have an event watcher up there that I can watch for an event for a specific account and take actions. There's no way that we could build a single solution scalable process without Vtenext. So Vtenext, sort of summing up, because I think I've already gone over my 30 minutes here. It's a full-featured CRM. You don't sacrifice anything. It has all the features that you expect, but it has much more, and most importantly, if you really step back and think, what can this do for me? What can automation do for me? The choice will be clear that it's Vtenext. It's open source. We like open source. We find the open source model to be the most productive out there. And I like the third one is you can start for free with the community edition. We did. And we tested everything. Does it have all the features and functions? No, but the ones that it didn't have weren't the things that were important to us for testing purposes. Remember, we had to automate. We needed to be able to scale. Business process automation is the heart. It is the heart. You build from automation out rather than trying to shoehorn automation in, which in most cases, and as I said, we've implemented it multiple times, it's a kludge. It really is difficult. Standard BPM or standard business process management notation, you can import BPM models from other development tools. So as I said, as an organization, we adopted BPMN a long time ago, and we use different things to build BPM models. Again, the beauty is we can just upload those into Vtenext. Everything's exposed in the BPM. You can automate literally anything. You can maintain anything. And most importantly, the people that are doing the automation are non-programmers. They're your business analysts, the ones that are closest to the market, the customer, and the events of real time. It's got an extensible object model, no or low code environment. Business analysts can automate just about anything. Great customer support. Vtenext happens to be a European company, and they're dedicated to customer support. They're dedicated to getting back to you, and just fantastic. I find that the design is intuitive, the user interface is easy to use, and as I said, I've done 7 ERP systems. None of them to me are as intuitive and as easy to use as Vtenext. Best pricing out there? Undeniably, for a world-class, top-tier CRM that also is built on top of probably the best business process automation engine, their pricing is just head and shoulders above everybody else. And lastly, cloud or local host deployment. If it can be managed on the cloud through Vtenext ourselves, or you can have your own local host deployment. Currently, we're running on our AWS because we have a lot of failover and interactions and things like that. But you have either option there. If you're interested in servicing your customers, if you're interested in doing the best things that you can for your employees, which in my head means use their creativity, use their commitment, and keep them away from drudgery and busy work, and you want to scale your company, choose Vtenext. Exergy Energy did. We never looked back, and we thank them for helping us to succeed. Everybody, that's it. I did go over a little bit of 30 minutes. Apologies on that. If you want more information, you can reach out to me, Dave March. And I think Alex is on as well. Alex is the Chief Brand Officer at Vtenext over in Italy. So I think I'm keeping him up right now. Are there any questions?
Taking a look at the chat room, I don't see any questions coming in yet. If you do have a question, please enter it into the chat window, not the Q&A window, but the chat window, and we'll take a look and see if anything comes in here in the next moment. So it looks like you answered everyone's question, Dave.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time, especially at lunchtime. And again, if you just want to talk about CRM, and you just want to talk about automation in the scalable enterprise and what we call the intelligent enterprise, just give us a call. Drop me a note. Connect with me on LinkedIn. We publish a lot of things on other aspects of the intelligent enterprise. Happy to share. Our goal is to make everybody as successful as possible. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today, and have a great day. Bye-bye.